Excellent.
Hey!
Hey, there we go. We are live.
Hello.
Hey,
Skull to you.
good to have you here for the second episode of KMFCast. I'm Caleb Brown, and our guest host today, Ryan Chartrand, the Point Baron, we're calling him. Ryan has unlimited points that he can give out to all of our guests today for any reason at all. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're beginning diving into the state of mobile development. We have guests here that are iOS developers, Android developers, hybrid developers. So the perfect combination of folks to be talking about the state of Android, a little bit of the future, a little bit of versus, some fun stuff. So let's go ahead and dive into it if we want to start bringing in some of our guests here that are ex-teamers.
Let's do that. Well, actually, before we start, Caleb, I just want to congratulate you. Episode 2, KMFCast.
That's right.
At this point, it's a real thing.
It's a real thing. We're here. We're live.
It's a real thing, and no more computers falling apart in the middle of the stream. No more.
Are we over that?
No more babies running through the backgrounds. It's a real production now. So
it is. It is.
I'm honored to be your point baron today. Looking forward to giving out lots of points.
Absolutely. And some fun games too. To break up the tech talks. We got some fun games. So looking forward to it.
Well, yeah. Let's actually talk about that. As point baron, I'm giving out some X label today to whoever gets the most points. Also, someone in the chat. So I see some chat folks there. Hello, Juan. Hello, Wanison. Hello, Cassio. Hello, Kendry. All sorts of awesome people joining us today.
Heck yeah.
One of you in the chat, whoever has the funniest comment today is also going to get your choice from our X Label collection. I'm actually wearing the same one as our good friend Amanda here.
That's right.
This is an awesome, very comfortable. All of our work from home collection. It's beautiful. So
it really is.
Welcome, Lucas, as well. And yeah, Caleb, go ahead. Kick us off.
Yeah.
What do we have today?
Today we have bringing in Felipe. Awesome.
Hi, guys.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for being here. Awesome background you got there.
Wow.
Thanks,
Rubik's Cubes.
I'm glad to be here.
Keyboard?
Yeah.
You're already earning my points.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, definitely point worthy.
Both of those are getting not getting used as much as they get used as a background.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. You're not supposed to say that though. You're supposed to say
it's okay if
constantly...
the props.
But yeah, lately they have been more props than actually being used. But
that's okay. They look great. Let's bring in Leonardus.
Hey guys.
Oh, from the House of Corgi.
I was gonna say the House of Corgi. You got your swag.
I'm representing my house. So
nice.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Oh, and a Nutcracker just sneaking into frame there.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Holiday spirit. Holiday spirit. I'm already giving out some coins already.
That's right.
Nice.
And now, I thought we were bringing in Abraham. Do we have too many folks? Is that what we're doing?
I have to probably vanish, which is okay. No one wants to hear from me anyway. But I'm quickly going to give some points out, so you'll see me in the background giving those points out. All right. Farewell.
And there he goes. And now we have Abraham. Hey. Thanks for joining us. Are you muted? I don't think I can hear you.
Oh, what about now?
There we go. Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, I can't quite see. Very good. Very good. Thanks for joining us. I can't quite see what you got going on in the background, but you got a good background. Oh, nice.
Those are Lego pieces.
Okay.
So the Apollo 11 down the Eagle that they used the lunar landing. This is from London. This is the London Bridge, and
nice.
The carousel, and this is a pirate shape in the bottom.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, and to the other side, I have my Amiibos collection. This is the Amiibos.
Yeah, quite the collection. Awesome. Very cool. Well, yeah, like I said, everyone here. There's Ryan.
I gotta say, just for the Amiibos. I mean, come on, Amiibo collection. This is amazing. All right, I'm giving out points. You're gonna see the scoreboard. I'm getting at it.
Well, like I said in the intro, we have 3 awesome mobile developers here, all kind of different sort of disciplines, some Android, some iOS, a little bit of hybrid in there. So definitely a good chat. So I see no reason why not to just jump into the very first topic, which is hybrid versus native. Just want to kind of chat about, the reasons to use one over the other, advantages, things like that. Pretty broad topic, but we got 3 folks here that I think will really do a good job going over that. So if someone wants to kick it off with maybe your kind of point of view or your preferred method, we can do that.
I can kick off, guys,
awesome.
If you are agree.
Yeah.
In the terms of hybrid versus native, I have a strong position for native because I'm Android developer. I work with both, with hybrid and also with native. But I prefer native for some specific reason. That is the first reason is that you can do more stuff with native. You can create great stuff, working the UX, because if you notice, I love the painting. So I love the painting. I love all the UI, and doing with native, I think we can build better apps for a client. Obviously, we can use an hybrid for an MVP to create a fast MVP and present this to the investor or to the client, and later build a huge native app to build a great product. So that's my start point for this versus.
What do you think, Felipe or Abraham?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I personally, of course, I guess we are gonna be on the side of what keeps us having a job. I mostly work with React Native, so of course I'm gonna be on the React Native team.
Sure.
But I think I of course agree with Leonardus where large projects definitely warrant having separate Android and iOS teams. But I think the scalability of React Native goes to a very long point where for an MVP, React Native is very helpful. For example, I had a client a year back where they had a project that they thought it would have mostly iOS users. They were targeting older people, people with disposable income. So they thought, yeah, this is gonna be mostly iOS. Let's just develop for iOS. And when we were almost finishing, they were getting some beta testers, and they ended up getting like 70% Android users as beta testers. So
Yeah.
if they went with a native approach, they would have. They almost went with only developing for iOS, even though we were developing on React Native. But I managed to advise them against that. And if they went with a native route, they would have lost 70% of their testers.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point. And another point as well is that the JavaScript ecosystem, although most developers that don't develop JavaScript hate it, it can do everything, maybe not as well as some other languages, but it can do everything somewhat well. So you could have a lot of code shared between React Native and the React website, have the same developer working on a Node backend. And if you have a small team, you can have all those people sharing, working on the entire stack for the project of the company.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I want to hear from Abraham, but I do think that this question that just popped up from the YouTube chat is a great one. Doesn't matter if you're building a game or a Twitter-like app. There's a great question because those are seemingly, I'm not a mobile developer, but seemingly a game to me would feel different. My guess would be that native would be better there, but I'm happy to be proven wrong because I do think that's a good question for the panel here.
You'll actually not be proved wrong there. When it comes to mobile development, this is like, have you heard, you don't bring a gun to a sword fight, or you don't bring a sword to a gun fight? It's
Sure.
like the same. At the end of the day, it will depend, and you'll have different tools. You just have to take advantage of the tool. Like Felipe said, you could leverage the velocity, the speed, the hybrid development will give you. Like, back in the days when Ionic was starting, I remember a bunch of newspapers, they were launching their MVP, and their MVP just consisted on their main page. Their main page was just presenting news, and you could easily take the HTML that they were using already, put that into Ionic using Angular, and boom, you had an application. Later on, when you wanted to start adding features like a chat, like a reporting, so you can take photos for instant news. So some newspapers actually start to branch to native development, and that's the thing. You have to be as flexible as possible. It might make sense for your company that you are a fortune company, that you have a lot of capital and you want to launch an app really fast, really quick. Put that into the hands of the people, the users. Hybrid might be the best thing for you. But for example, game development, you might start considering native development there, because you actually, even doing native, we actually sometimes decide to go a step lower, to go directly to the compiler, maybe sometimes C++ in the case of the Android fellows. And that's the thing. I mean, for sure, I would prefer always native, but one thing is to also understand the business. If you have a real need to go fast, hybrid might be the best thing in the moment. But I think, and my example for this is Airbnb. I think that by the end of the day, you'll be doing native if you want to leverage more resources from the ecosystem, from either the Android ecosystem or the iOS ecosystem.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, that depends a lot for the business requirements. I just watched a comment based on that. So it's dependent of the business requirement, because if you have a game, maybe the better is build native or even with Unity. Use Unity to build a game. So that's depend of the business requirement. The other stuff for a Twitter app, also again depends of the business requirement, because you can create a great React Native app for an MVP with a bunch of functionality, or with Ionic, or with other alternative of hybrid. But at the end of the day, if you see, for example, Twitter for Android development specific is built native, because it's a huge app and use a lot of asynchronous stuff, calls and API, and all those stuff. I know React do very well, but these people and we as developer use native, and I think I will talk with from my side point is, as native developer, I think it's better for great or huge project.
Yeah. Cool. So I do want to get on to our next topic, but that's it. I want to mention that comment real quick. Alternatives like TurboLinks iOS for hybrid apps. Personally not familiar, but has anyone tried any alternatives?
I never heard about it.
Yeah.
No, I know we have a few decent alternatives now. We have Flutter, but I hate to call myself a hybrid developer, because the term hybrid has been just.
Have you tested Kotlin multi-platform?
No. I just focus on React Native, but I've seen there are a lot of older platforms like Ionic, or even some solutions where it's just basically a web view inside an app, and that's kind of the image that that hybrid has. But definitely there are some kind of better solutions. But even then, there are a lot of I've seen a lot of very successful startups which get started with those kinds of apps that are clearly just web views and could easily be just websites. I guess the biggest problem is once the company starts growing and the needs of the product start growing, then there's that risk that they might be sidetracked from moving to native because they already have so much code in that platform. So I guess that's the biggest risk in that.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, another great question tossed up here. What about adding native features to a hybrid app? And does it improve the performance or UI?
Yeah, so I guess basically React Native is very Facebook is very hands-off about React Native. They built kind of the minimum amount of stuff possible. They offloaded a lot of their modules recently to the community, and most of the power for React Native is from the community who builds native features and integrates that to React Native. And any developer has the ability to do that, add screens, add modules, add any native code, and interact with the native code from JavaScript. So most of the power is.
Sorry, Philip.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for you because I have been working in projects with using sensors like GPS or wear sensor or anything. In React Native, we can use that sensors? I don't know. It's a question for you. We can use it.
Yeah, for sure. So that's kind of something that has also been been growing as React Native has matured. I guess the biggest selling point for React Native is the community, even beyond packages, but also you can find almost any question you have on Google, on Git, on Stack Overflow. I worked a bit with native iOS, and even though it's a much older platform than React Native, you can find a lot of questions that you simply can't find an answer to. But also since there is such a vibrant community, there are a lot of people who eventually get interested. They need something like sensors, and they go ahead and develop a library integrating the native implementations for their sensors, and kind of joining the interfaces for Android and iOS into a single cohesive thing. So that's something that has been growing over time, especially even now. I think React Native has already 6 years or something like that that it has launched, and we are starting to see something similar to native performance on animations, and it's just getting started to get somewhere decent. It's nowhere close to the animations that you see on SwiftUI, where you basically can just change the code, animate between these two completely different UIs, and it's gonna do that flawlessly. It's not quite there, but it's getting much closer. Instead of having just to specify every single position, calculate every single position between the first and last frame of animations.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, we covered a lot there. I was glad that we did have those questions popping up, that we got to answer some questions in real time. That's cool. But let's go ahead and move on to architectural patterns, because I think that's another interesting one to talk about with folks that are on different platform experience. And there's Ryan.
Points Baron is back.
Points Baron's back.
I had to step in and say, this has been fascinating discussion so far.
It really has been.
This is amazing. Thank you for educating everyone watching. But I did give out a few points because I felt, Felipe, I realized you are a very brave man for coming here to defend hybrid. So I'm so grateful you are here and adding to this conversation. So I'm definitely putting you in the lead right now. Anyway, I'm out of here. All right.
Awesome.
Enjoy your
Yeah, I'm definitely outnumbered today.
That's all right. So yeah, we've moved on to architecture patterns. Obviously, also kind of a broad topic. But like I said, interesting to have the three of you here with those kind of different backgrounds, but within the same umbrella that is mobile. So if someone wants to kick things off here and figure out which direction we're going, go ahead and do so. Abraham, anything to say about the architecture patterns?
Of course. Let me just jumpstart. So, architectural patterns. I mean, this is one of the best topics when it comes to software design, because I really love kind of that particular thing. I remember that course from computer science, software analysis and design. Yeah. And when it comes to mobile development, they are frequently brought, especially into the iOS ecosystem, because let's start with a topic, inner topic in architectural patterns. Infamous architectural patterns. I mean, what kind of patterns have you seen in the wild that you'll think like that's something you don't want to see anymore again? And I'll start that covering MVC. MVC is the most common architectural pattern that you'll encounter in iOS, especially also if you come from .NET development in the backend, where you have the model, the view, and the view controller, and it's great. It's like when we were talking about hybrid development. It's good, but there's a point where you have to think like, okay, I need something else. This is growing too big for keep maintainable, and fun fact, in iOS, we tend to call the MVC with a funny name. It's Massive View Controller, because that's actually what ends up happening. We have a view controller that's thousands and thousands of lines of code, and when you want to change something, you have to just start digging through it, looking and seeing, oh my god, where's what I want to change. It's difficult, and that's on the topic of the infamous view controllers. Architectural patterns. I might say that that's the least one, the one that I use the least. And then we also have those architectural patterns that they are super duper over the table. That they do everything you want to do, and they are like the silver arrow to the problem. There's no silver arrow to a problem, but yeah. And I call that for Viper. Viper is an iOS architectural pattern that's really common among new iOS developers and also experienced iOS developers, because it's like a pattern that tries to solve every problem you have. The problem is that it also creates a problem. It creates complexity. It adds a lot of boilerplate code, and at the end of the day, when you have complexity in a project, you don't actually want to have complexity. That's the thing. You try to adhere to the keys simple, like keep it simple as much as you can, and that's a problem Viper has. It's difficult to keep it simple, and for example, you have a project and you have a junior coming up, someone that just got out of college, and how do you explain Viper? It might take you a full 2 weeks just to get that person started on the pattern, not the application. So I interrupted Leonardis. He wanted to say something. No. Sorry for that.
Yeah, no problem. I was saying that you are right, talking about massive view controller, MVC. I start with MVC, like you. So on Android, we build with a single view, a parent view with 1,000 of lines, handle a lot of stuff, API calls, change of UI, interaction with the user, a lot of stuff in one single place. So as you say, it's a massive view controller. So talking about the other architectural pattern, we can chat about MVVM, MVP, Viper, as you said. And I think I use a lot MVVM because we are on Android. We use the view model from the Android.
Let me laugh a little bit. Not because of that, but because there was a comment saying that actually MVVM was the messier. So I want you to defend your MVVM right now, because
I was just gonna ask the same. Yeah.
I was to defend MVVM. Yeah. So I have been working with MVVM a lot in Android because we use view model from the Google Android library. So we use view model for that, and we use a lot of MVVM, but we always change some little stuff. Like in some cases we use use cases, and we make the complex of the architecture more complex. Yes, we add some complex to the architecture. And in other case, we use interactor, and we start using MVVM with interactor, which is weird. And in other case, I work with an app with MVP and interactor. So we start merging some of the architectures because the team doesn't have a really defined architectural pattern to use in the project. So, for example, if you have a great group of experienced developer, we can use Viper because Viper provides interactor, presenters, entities, and a lot of stuff, routes, and the view, obviously, and you have all that bunch of layers for your application. And what the best, if I need to choose a word to express the architectural pattern that you will use in your project, is segregation. Man, you need to segregate your code as much as you can, and that's the best word that I can find to those developers that need to choose an architectural pattern, or the architectural pattern has the benefit, but you need to segregate your code to don't have. If you use an MVC, you need to segregate your code, and you can have a good MVC architecture. I watched a course talking about architectural pattern, and the teacher used MVC, but the couple so much the code that you can notice that was MVC the first approach on that architectural pattern, and this I think that's the way the key. Use segregation, decouple the code, and you will have a great code.
Yeah. Felipe, just to give you a platform, anything you wanted to bring up, especially on the kind of anything that is related to the hybrid. I suppose the patterns themselves kind of cross all of these things. It's just maybe a little bit of a slightly different implementation, perhaps. But yeah, if anything you want to add to that, Felipe?
Yeah, so that's something interesting, and that's something that I wanted to ask the native developers afterwards. How they feel these patterns have evolved to this kind of modern versions that are Swift UI and Jetpack Compose, where you kind of are offloaded from having to write code for all the UI updates that happen as consequence of data changes or user interaction, because that's something that's very similar to how React works. React Native is just basically React, right? And React has had that for a long while, where all the UI changes are driven from the UI itself, very similar to how Swift UI and Jetpack Compose work, where the UI is already kind of written as dependent on the data. So many of those patterns don't really make sense. I don't know if there is a conversation of React architectural patterns, but it's not that much of a worry, because a lot of the complications and the boilerplate that come with having to kind of manually update the UI is already handled by itself. If you know the rules, you don't really have to do much. And a lot of kind of the architectural patterns are kind of what Leonardo said. It's just segregation, segregating the data, segregating kind of uncontrolled or just visual components from data-driven components. React has a lot of ways to handle data, but for example, Redux has something you could call kind of an architectural pattern. It has a lot of boilerplate, a lot of reducers, sagas, a lot of boilerplate to handle the data in what could be called an architectural pattern, but it's mostly just separating the data, making segregating things that don't have to be together, and trying to make the code as clear as possible, because at the end of the day, even if you make a super complicated, super smart kind of architectural pattern, simplicity is always going to beat that, because at some point someone's going to come to the project after years of it being worked on, and they need to understand what the hell is going on. And
yeah, for sure. I believe our points baron in the background said that he had a question, I think specifically for Felipe.
The points baron is back from House Ragnar. Well, here we got a great question for Felipe. How easy is it I've been wondering this myself, how easy is it to go from React knowledge, let's say you're senior React to learning React Native?
I'd say it depends.
That
It's mostly
is the
very
phrase
easy.
of
It's,
the day.
The phrase of the day.
it's easier to definitely easier to go from React to React Native than from native mobile to React Native, because it's the same language, the same syntax. Getting used to things like Redux and to the patterns that React has, it's something that takes quite a while to get used to. But at the same time, that's something that after a little while, anyone can realistically learn it. So it's not endlessly complex. If you have a certain time frame, you can learn it, while learning the ins and outs of platforms, learning how to handle different screen sizes, accessibility features, sensors, whatnot, the kind of all the intricate things that mobile has that web doesn't. That's something much less tangible than learning React. So of course you're gonna be much faster at the start if you go from React to React Native. But I think a mobile developer, while they're gonna take a bit longer to get used to the language is gonna be easier to learn, and those little caveats from each platform, I guess take much longer to learn. And you
Good
can
answer.
kind of only learn from experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Felipe, you
Well,
can
before
correct me if
I
I'm wrong.
oh, hello.
Oh, sorry.
Come on in.
Felipe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the biggest challenge you might face coming from React.js to React Native, it might be the platform challenge. Like, you're coming from web development to mobile development, so there's a kind of there's a break in the middle of how things work on mobile and how things works on web. So getting used to that mindset might be the first challenge you have to overcome. They think, like you said, like the technology might be, in my perception, the technology might be the least of the concerns here. Yeah, that's an opinion.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. I think that's kind of one of the reasons that people don't really, after a certain kind of seniority, people don't care as much the languages because languages you can learn in a relatively short amount of time. But those small details, knowing how to handle releases, is something that is much harder to learn. You have to learn from experience, and a native developer is already gonna know a lot about it, that someone coming from React Web isn't gonna have as much. Of course, I think it is an easy transition, but yeah, I think both a mobile developer and a React developer are gonna have some difficulties transitioning, and some easy things. And I think especially now that mobile developers are learning syntax very similar to what React does with Swift UI and Jetpack Compose. I think if they switch to React, they would see that it is actually very similar.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, and more good comments coming in, which I certainly appreciate. Our Points Baron.
Points Baron is back. Yes, hello. Just a quick update on the scoreboard, because we're heading into our first party break now.
We are, yes.
Which kind of sounds like potty break, but it is party break.
Party break.
I gave, Leonardus being the brave man willing to defend MVVM despite the chat not being on his side. So you are now equally as brave as Felipe. My points go to bravery and honor. All right, let's move on, though, to our party break, shall we?
Our first party break. Yeah, today we are guessing the game. This is a classic, old school iOS, I believe, is how it launched. So someone very famous from Apple has texted us a screenshot. You're going to see it in a moment. And we're actually using the private chat you'll see down below. Just type anything at all. It doesn't have to be the answer. Type anything at all. And that's how we would determine. That's your buzzer. Felipe's got it. That's your buzzer for chiming in and giving the title of the game. So, without further ado, I think we can have that text message come right on in. Oh, Tim Cook. Tim Cook just sent a screenshot. Oh, in it. I think Abraham got it first. Abraham, what's that game?
Flappy Bird.
Flappy Bird. That is correct. Everyone got it right in the chat, but Abraham, at least according to mine, was the first to chime in. Points, Baron?
Bravo. That was really
fast.
quick. I didn't expect.
Everyone was
That
really
was
fast
really
on that.
fast.
Yeah.
One of the I wish we'd made it happen, but we had originally planned at the X Summit. We gave away a lot of amazing stuff. Geralt's sword, signed Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings poster. We had all sorts of amazing things. One of them, though, Caleb, that you suggested we should give away.
Yep.
Was an iPhone. Was it 4 or 5?
I think it was 4.
An iPhone 4 with nothing on it but Flappy Birds, and still has it.
Still has it because it was pulled from the App Store. I mean,
That was an amazing idea.
Yeah, they exist. If anyone wants one, they're out on eBay for kind of a lot of money to pay for an iPhone 4. But definitely a cool piece of tech history. Yeah, interesting story. We won't go into all of it there, also because I don't remember all of it. But I believe that the stress of the app, the developer pulled it. He was making like $50,000 a day, but the stress was too much. Pulled it from the App Store. Flappy Bird.
Mental health. That's what it's all about.
That's
even back then.
Even back then.
Well, there you go. Abraham taking the lead, and I'll get out of here as we move on.
And we're moving on to Swift versus Kotlin. Another one, good one to chat about here. Obviously, different directions you can go in a versus like this, but I think that with the talented folks that we have in front of us, you will be able to steer us in the right direction. So anyone wants to jump in on Swift versus Kotlin?
I will start.
Leonardis, go ahead.
Yeah, I will start defending Kotlin side. Yeah. Well, as you know, on Android we have two kind. Yeah, I read that comment. And it's right. We have Java and we have Kotlin on Android development, but Kotlin is Java with steroids. So we have a really modern language with Kotlin. We have a bunch of great stuff with Kotlin that we can build almost as we are talking to the computer. So that's really nice. I work with Swift 4 or 3, I don't remember, and it's a great language, but I prefer Kotlin because one word or one single Kotlin multi-platform, so you can use Kotlin for a bunch of stuff. You can use for Android development, you can use for backend development, you can use for frontend if you want, and you can use to build apps for iOS too. So that's a great stuff for Kotlin. And also, you don't need to have a MacBook to use Kotlin.
That's a plus. That's a plus. Yeah.
Absolutely. You got me in the last one. I can deny that. Though I can say you don't actually need a MacBook to use Swift. You need a MacBook to use to develop for iOS. That's the caveat. The best thing about Swift is that Swift is not an Apple ecosystem language. Swift is a general programming language. The idea is that you can use Swift wherever the compiler runs. And since the compiler runs based on Unix, you can use Swift basically any way. anywhere. Right now, we have many projects that use leverage Swift power for API development, REST API development. That you can use that for backend, and and yeah, I agree a lot with Jose. Those are great languages. I've been using Swift, and I have used Kotlin. I doubt that there's a bigger fight between them, that there was a bigger fight between their predecessors, like for Java or Objective-C. The case of Swift, for example, I would like you, Leonardis, to talk about this if you have experience on Java. But I can notice that on the iOS side, Swift has reduced the amount of crash, the stability of an app significantly. Like the amount of code that you had to put into an app to make it stable, to make crash resistant, was outstanding. And even though it's still crash will happen, Swift had, with the minimal effort, you can reduce that amount. And talking about an app, this depends a lot. Your mileage might vary because this depends on the way you code. But remember an app I used to work for? It was an Objective-C app, and we started migrating that app to Swift, and the amount of crashes doing the same exact work reduced like 40%, and that's a lot. And I guess my guess, and I'm a little bit confident that on the Android side, the same thing will happen.
Yeah. The same migrating from Java to Kotlin, you reduce the quantity of crashes. So you are right on that because.
But
go ahead.
In just saying that, like, since we were throwing punches at each other, I could say that's one way where Swift excels and Kotlin does not is on leveraging the memory usage. In Swift, we have value types. We have the structs that they reside in stack, not on heap. So it's a lot faster to access those kind of types. And also enums. Enums are frequently powerful on Swift, and my friends on the Kotlin side, they have to rely on sealed classes, and that's not kind of the same to enums, but hey, at least you got something.
Yeah, we have sealed classes, we have known classes, we have sealed interfaces, so we have a lot of bunch of data structure because we have data classes. We have, if you make a list of the benefits of using Kotlin, you will find a lot. Because yes, if you are, as you said, if you are migrating from Java to Kotlin, the first thing that you will notice is the null safety, so that you have two. So in Swift, so I think Kotlin started as an experiment from JetBrains to create a language similar to Swift, to be honest, because it's really similar, with the difference with LED, bulbs, and that stuff. But both are really, really similar. One of the other advantages that I will propose to Kotlin is the use of the JVM. So with Kotlin, you run on the JVM. So you can have your code running on the mobile, and you can get your code running on your PC without any problem if the PC have the JVM. And that's all. That's all the thing that we have. But there is a thing that we are missing in the topic, because we have Swift versus Kotlin, but we need to add versus JavaScript or React.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's a point for Felipe. So you can define your position.
Yeah, so now that you guys, I managed to get a break where it wasn't the two native guys bashing React Native, and they were just fighting between each other. So I'll propose a mediation. Instead of being Swift UI versus Jetpack Compose, why not look at the positives for both? Which I think they are very, very similar. And it's amazing to see I mean, they and Google and Apple basically have a monopoly over their own platforms, and especially because they don't need to care as much how the developers are feeling, but they still try to they invest a lot to try to make the developer experience as good as possible. And in my opinion, they have made great strides to move away from the mess that Objective C was, and move to something like what we have now. I only have experience with Swift UI. I never used Jetpack Compose beyond knowing a bit what it looks like, but it seems very similar to Swift UI as well. And they are moving to somewhere. I feel it's very similar to React Native, as I mentioned before, and it makes in my opinion, makes the experience much better, much easier. You don't have to, just going from React Native and see where we already had those declarative UIs, and seeing that for years the native developers had to actually get the objects for a certain view and update the properties manually as necessary. For me, that's terrible. That's awful. And to see that now we have the option not to rely on that, for me, it's very hopeful for the future of mobile development as a whole.
I think you have a great point, Philip, because you was talking about the how about Jetpack Compose and Swift UI and I think that Google and Apple are trying to make the same thing, that is the couple all the stuff. So if you see, for example, Kotlin is totally decoupled from the Android ecosystem because it's a JetBrain thing. So it's not from Google, it's from JetBrain. Sorry again. So the same thing that Google trying to do with Jetpack Compose, because they are trying to decouple of the code of the UI from the XML file and creating all the UI in declarative in Kotlin code, which is really, really fast, really, really easy. And you can make your code more testable. So that's a great point for that approach, because I was asking for this for the Jetpack Compose when I was the first time Swift UI long time ago. So I was asking for this from Google, and also if you think in all the stuff, I think Apple has a more mature product with all the IDE and all the Swift ecosystem. Yeah, you have more time than, for example, Android Studio, because when I work with Swift and iOS, I work with a feature to see the UI in 3D, and so you can watch the layer after layer of the UI. And I was asking for the Android Studio team for that feature in particular, and was added, I think, 1 year and 1.5 years ago for the Android Studio, and was amazing. And now we have Jetpack Compose, and you can have the UI updating when you are creating your code. So you can do it. I have great point here for Swift UI. I never touch a lot, and I have great point for Jetpack Compose, because as you say, Felipe, it's not a fight. It's not a versus. It's this is good and this is good too, and we are using both to build iOS and Android apps. So that's I think that's all.
Absolutely. I think one important fact here is that this is not a fight between those two technologies. It's like a topic about how declarative UI has helped us improve our workflow and the amount of flexibility and also simplicity that comes to our applications. And like we were talking when back in architectural patterns, that's really important. When you have simplicity on an app, when the app is it's as easy as it can be, you can you can start developing on it really fast, really well, because it's easy to understand, it's easy to explain, and that's, I think, the most important part. And declarative UI comes really natural because it's like, um, if we talk about the evolution of declarative UI coming from the HTML, we have seen, we can see how declarative UI can be simple, and how easy it is to explain your UI in simple terms. Like, hey, in Jetpack Compose, for example, I think Jetpack Compose is really simple to explain those kind of things. Just say, hey, I don't know, I want a row, and inside that row I want a column. I want that column to be centered, and in that center I want to have two buttons, and that's it. And when you read the UI, it feels really natural because it's like you're reading plain English, and then later hooking up those contents to your app, to maybe your view model, maybe a coordinator, whatever it is. It's also kind of simple, and I think the idiomatic, and that's the way you read the languages for Kotlin and Swift, they really help to that, because you can make those languages to be read like they are plain English. One thing I would like to say, and this is like a sorry to disrupt your flow, Caleb, but like
You're fine.
a question for both Felipe and Leonardis. Like, for example, how do you see that the declarative UI has evolution and has improved the industry, the software industry? And for Leonardis, how do you see Jetpack Compose as being production ready? And I mean, how do you see that Jetpack Compose can be leveraged in a full Polish application? Because, for example, I can talk about Swift UI. Remember Swift UI in the very beginning? In the very beginning, it was really awesome. But when you try to put that into a already well-established application, there were things missing. Like, there was customization missing. There were things that were difficult to do. I remember one of them was pull to refresh. Pull to refresh was a nightmare on the first version of Swift UI, and it became a little bit easier on the second version. And the third version is a lot better. So, how do you have you seen those kind of improvements on Jetpack Compose, and what can you say? Would you use that on a production application? Question for both of you guys.
Well, I will answer really quick. I think Jetpack Compose has been growing from the last year, because when we start with the Jetpack Compose on the Android, we face similar issues that you on Swift UI. For example, I start and I was wondering how to make a view pager. That's the pager that we use for onboarding and those stuff and tutorials. That is easy to get on XML, because we use the view pager is a view created, and you only add the fragment that we need for it. But here we start with no view pager. So what Google did was create a couple of libraries, complement libraries for Jetpack Compose, like he did in the beginning of the Android development with I forgot the name of the library, but like Google did in the past, he started creating some libraries with those components. For example, in this case, the view pager, and also the pull to refresh is in those libraries, and you can add access to that code, and you can create the UI, as you said, with if you are talking with the machine. Hey, I need a column with a text with this color and center, and that's it that you need to create an UI in Compose. It's ready for production. I think it's ready for production. I'm working right now in a project with Jetpack Compose for production, and it's working very well. I think Ryan was something that I did with Compose, with animation. Looks really really cool, and you can you can create those simple things that you don't notice as a developer, or you don't notice as user, but that has impact in your application. So all is related to the user necessities, right? All is for we. I think we all try to create great apps for the user without any error, and I think Compose offer a kind of error handling very well, because you don't need to be aware of the declaration of some UI to be not null, for example, because Jetpack Compose is aware of that UI with the state like Swift UI that handles something similar. And I think that's all. Create a great app for the user, and the user will be thankful for that.
Yeah, awesome. This is a very diplomatic chat. It was less of a versus and more of a comparison. That was great. We definitely learned a lot there for sure, and I certainly appreciate it. And it was great to hear perspectives from everyone. We are going to be moving along. I believe our last topic is asynchronous programming. However, I thought I'd see your face.
Time to party again.
I suspect we have a party break.
Very
similar to the last time. This is Guess the App. Again, a very early. This was like right when. Remember, I stood in line for the very first iPhone. And there were the only apps you had were from Apple. You had no marketplace, no store. But once it opened, there was this app, which was iconic. Also got pulled from the App Store. Let's go ahead. Same rules. Chime in the chat. We're getting ready to show this iconic app.
Well, and actually, let's look at our scores going into the party break, because Leonardus climbing close to the lead there, because I think this is the first time in KMF history, which, there's been a lot of these episodes, but first time in history that someone has been called an idol.
Yeah.
You have such a huge fan base. Someone said you are their idol.
I have my fans, man.
Man, just for that, I gave you points. That was amazing. All right, now let's kick this off.
Yes.
Here we go. Guess the app. Good luck.
Guess the app. Here it is.
This is a hard one.
It is. Philippe, did you chime in? Was that you? Do you know it?
That's a chime. That's a buzz.
Do you know it, Felipe?
I don't know if it's the correct one, but
go ahead.
Well, he was saying it's Messenger, but remember, this is just you're getting a text message of the app itself.
Yes, that's
then I don't know.
from the great Johnny Ives sending us. It was a one-screen app. What you see is what it is. Maybe I made this one too hard.
I think it is too hard, but I still like it anyway. Let's see. Does the chat know? Can we give it to the chat?
Yeah, can we give it to the chat?
I think.
I bet you. Oh, he's got it.
Yes.
Well, it's I am rich, but yeah.
Close enough. Just condensed.
So that's interesting. So a moment for me to educate, I guess, since folks didn't know it. This was a very interesting app. Yeah, there it is. Iconic, a little controversial. When the App Store opened pretty early on, the max you could charge for an app was $999 USD. And someone made, I should have looked up the developers, but someone made this app, and that's all it was. You saw this red ruby in that, or not gold, red ruby. That's all it was, and it was $999. Apple did pull that from the App Store, but a little piece of iOS history.
Nice.
I love it.
I mean,
$999.
if you think about it, the app lived to its name, because if you bought the app,
Yep.
you can proudly say, "Yeah, I'm rich."
I'm rich. I can drop $1,000 just on an app that does nothing. It was bragging rights. Yeah.
So who made more money, I Am Rich or Flappy Birds?
I believe Flappy Birds did. I'll have to double
Flappy
check
Bird.
that, but I think Flappy Bird did.
Yeah, I think so.
This one should have technically made more money because I think it had like 200 reviews. Don't you need to?
Oh,
Do you need to buy an app to write a review? I can't remember. I don't think you do actually.
Yes,
No.
you do.
You do? Even back then?
Yeah.
Who knows?
it could be. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
probably
in
talking
the
like
beginning-
2010, right?
In the beginning, it was like that. You had to be a user. You had to have downloaded the app to be able to review it.
All right. Well, there it is. So they did make some money before Apple pulled it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll update our scoreboard, but
Yes.
congrats to nobody. So I guess I'm not updating the scoreboard.
There's nothing to update.
Catriel gets 5 points. There you go.
Yeah, you gotta
Enjoy.
put Catriel on the board.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll put him on the board. There you go.
And moving on to what I believe is our last technical topic. We do have a fun, non-related one after this, but asynchronous programming. Again, I keep saying it, but it's true. Great to have all three of you here for this with the different backgrounds, all under that mobile umbrella. I think it's awesome to talk about these categories, having that experience. That is why I selected you to be here, and very happy for you to join us. It was great. So let's kick off that last technical topic: asynchronous programming. Anyone who wants to jump in?
Philippe, this is
Felipe?
yours.
So I'm not very familiar with the other platforms, but I was taking a look before today, and I'm learning that Swift is adding the async await syntax on the latest version. And that's basically what we've had on JavaScript for years and years.
I love it.
So I feel like native is catching up on asynchronous programming with JavaScript. Maybe the syntax for more complicated asynchronous operations, like having a multiple asynchronous operations running in parallel, running a race between asynchronous operations and getting the first one, or things along those lines might be a little bit easier. JavaScript is kind of it's incredible how it ended up looking so nice, given that it is just a botch between a very old language that doesn't want to phase out anything. So it surprises me how good the syntax looks, given that anything that worked in a decade ago still works, I believe. But yeah, I don't know if I have much to say about this. From my perspective, it's very simple thing.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Felipe had mentioned that he got some kind of laughs when he was saying that things were catching up on the JavaScript side. So I just wanted to see what you two had to say there.
Yeah, I know why he said that, because, for example, on Android we started using coroutines maybe a year ago, a year and a half or 2 years ago. We started using coroutines, and that was a lifesaver, to be honest, because I was using from the beginning. I started using async, which is a nightmare with callbacks and callback hell that we are now, the callback hells. And After that, I touched a little of RX, RX Java, and RX Kotlin, and RX Android, and that solved the problem for me for some time, because later coroutine came to the party, and I think coroutines make all this async and await stuff really well, and did a great stuff managing all the life cycle of the app. So you can be aware of the life cycle with the coroutines and avoid crashes. And that's really great, because you can start, I don't know, showing to the user X stuff and be working in parallel with an API call or a string or a flow that you have working on the background, and that's really great. And I'm agree with Felipe that said that we are catching up, and I think, or the future of synchronous. Well, I think that's a great question from Katriel. Do you think observable are the future of asynchronous programming? Where if you see, Java is using observable a long time ago, and now in Kotlin we have observables too, but they are changing to flows. So they are changing to the flow because it's easier to collect the data for in flows, or not easier. It's more like you can left the flow collecting all the data that you need to use, and then retrieve that data in some point to the user, and you don't need any interaction of the user to do that, and you can do that with flow and keep listening for change of the user. And even for Android, you can attach the flow directly to the APIs, and you can attach to the local database, so you can have a flow listening for change in your local database and pushing that to the user, or even to a API service at the same time, which is really great.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I wanted to have a word just on the question about observables. I think personally, I had the nightmare of working with observables a bit. I think after you get over the very different syntax, it's not as bad as initially, but still I think you can have some more traditional syntax and still get all the benefits. And especially because with, of course, I guess this was a bug with the library. I don't know, maybe the React, the JavaScript implementation of observables, but I had the very unfortunate experience of trying to debug something for close to 3 months, I think, watching memory leaks and looking through the whole application, trying to find the issue. And eventually it was that the observable library itself was having a memory leak. So that was a very fun time, and it kind of soured the experience with observables for me.
Sure.
You know that usually the thing with observables is that it's a black magic. It's a black box. You don't actually know what's going on behind the library. And React Native, Arc Swift, Arc Java, ArcJS. You may know the operators you need to use, but what's happening behind those operators, that's completely agnostic to you. And I think that's usually what divides someone that knows reactive programming and someone that understands reactive programming, because to understand you have to know what's happening behind. And Observable has something similar to generator or async away. Well, that might be a question better for Felipe, but generator, I'm not familiar with the term.
The async.
Oh,
sorry. the async await to answer the question. Yeah, for example, in Android we can in coroutines we can async and await for a block of code. So you can start your async code that's a suspend fun, and you can await for the resolution of all the block code before continue.
Oh, of course. And speaking about synchronous programming, what's really nice, and Felipe talked about this, that finally Swift is doing that, is that now it's being made backward compatible. So people that hadn't updated to the late, that they're not using the latest iOS platform to develop, they can still leverage the benefits of async and await and the actors as well. This is a huge benefit. And I think even though it's a huge benefit, it will take a little bit of a curving of a linear curve to understand, to know what's happening, because as like we had the callback hell, we are going to I assure you we are going to see the async hell. Like people trying to use async a lot.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's usually the catch when you use async await. You cannot have something being asynchronous, and then something being synchronous and working together. You have to build a bridge in between the people that they can jump across. Like for example, there will be a moment in your application where in your data flow where you have to, okay, I need to jump back to the synchronous thread to return that data. And how do you do that? It's the important part, because I remember the first time I saw async and await operators. Every single piece of function that I had in the code, every single thing was async. Whereas async this, async that, and yeah, it's going to be a problem. So the first challenge for people right now will be to understand when to use it, how to use it, and how to make it understandable. And especially with the actors, like the actors will be a key part, something meaningful to understand how to use it pretty well. And this is as a side note, well, part of the topic, but as an advice for anyone that is wanting to try async and await on their iOS application, I think the best approach right now will be to gather as a team, if you are in a team, of course, and to gather as a team and to discuss, hey, how can we implement this, and how can we take advantage of this? What features on the app you see that will start playing with this? What functions, what situations? Because it will be the best, because first of all everybody in the team will be aware, and you can hear each of you opinions and thoughts about it. I think that's fairly better than just come up like the hero developer and start throwing up PR using async and await.
Yep.
Because you can do that, but nobody will understand that on the team. And the idea of this is that being something new and being made retro-compatible is that everybody can learn it. And the best way to learn is to discuss with anyone interested.
Absolutely agree. That's great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting that you said Abraham, about the asynchronous help, because it's real. It's real. You don't have a lot of callback after callback after callback after callback, but you can have a wrong asynchronous call in the wrong place, and you fuck up of the app. So that's all. You need to be aware, and your team, you need to be aware of what are you doing with the in my case with the coroutine or with the observables, because I always take this example from the RX documentation, because it's right. You need to be aware of the marbles. You need to be aware where the marble is and what the marble are going to get the stuff, because as I said at the beginning of this topic, I think coroutine is a lifesaver, because you can be aware of the change for the Android environment, which is great, because if you imagine that you left an asynchronous call running and you kill the app, or you kill the UI, so that's a crash for the app. Even if the user doesn't see that, it's a crash for your app. But with coroutine, you can be aware of those changes and let that your asynchronous call is in the same place.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. Great. I mean, I think that's unless anyone has anything to wrap up with, I think that is asynchronous programming, and we have kind of two ways we can go. I'm going to let the points baron decide, but we have one more game, and then we have our GTA topic. So points
I thought we had a game. Where did it go?
I thought we did.
A party break. Where are you?
We had another party break from a text message from someone very senior.
We do.
Thought so.
Well, yeah, we'll actually end with the GTA trilogy. I don't know how that got mixed around, but yeah, one more game. This is your last chance for points, folks. So
games for points, and we're back to games. We're back to games.
An Android game, please.
We'll see.
We will see.
Android. Are there Android games? Android only games? I don't think so.
Surely something, but I'm going to tell you this is not an Android game. I'll give you that hint.
Okay.
But same rules. We will use our private chat to buzz in guessing the game from a text message from a C-level Apple executive.
Ooh, here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. What game is this?
Steve Wozniak.
Wozniak likes this game apparently.
Who was the?
Felipe.
Was that Felipe?
Yeah,
tell us what it is, Felipe.
Tell us what it is.
Temple Run.
That's it.
Bingo.
Didn't they? I think they even made it into a game. Wasn't Dwayne the Rock Johnson the runner? Am I imagining that? I think so. Unless I'm imagining that.
No way.
Yeah. Fact check me, please. Maybe that was just a weird dream I had.
Jamie, pull that up.
There's a movie with.
Jamie, pull that up.
No, there was not. But maybe there
Jumanji.
was. Maybe.
No?
Maybe you're thinking of Jumanji. That's what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of Jumanji.
Okay.
Don't worry, Caleb. They reboot everything. I'm sure this will get a movie eventually.
We'll get a movie. I'm sure Steve Wozniak
they can
will be
just
happy about that.
reskin Jumanji into a Temple Run movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. Temple Run. There it is.
There you go.
That's a really classic game.
Yeah.
It is.
I remember playing that. That one was fun.
I was this game the first time in 2012 in an April.
Wow.
Yeah.
It made you feel so cool because you're like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm making it. I'm making it. And it's so fast. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, good stuff.
Good stuff.
Since it was from the time that the most fun you could have on a phone was using those apps that you tilt the screen and it seems like you're drinking.
Yeah,
it was the revolutionary as a game.
Yeah, one of the apps I was going to use was the flashlight app. Remember, the flashlight wasn't built into the iPhone for a long time, so there was an app that third-party developer.
Nice.
So Ryan, is there a way to get points baron? Is there a way to get all of us on the screen? Because this is kind of us educating you on the what's going on with the GTA.
Well,
is that possible or no? Or I can go away. I can go away.
No. I spent some time in the background learning about because I wanted to know what the heck is going on with the GTA trilogy, and I am very entertained by what I found. So let's for anyone who has not been caught up on this, here you go. GTA has released, I think it was GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. Re-released. And it is the Cyberpunk of 2021. Because here you go. I'm going to... whoops.
Oh, we have some clips.
How do we get it? Nope, that's not what we want. Hold on. Get rid of our card here. And we don't want me. We want you.
There we go.
There we go. And we'll put it up there.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
All right, try this again. This is amazing. It is these bugs are just phenomenal.
Oh boy!
And he's right out of sight.
Oh,
look, and he falls.
Oh, wow.
He goes to async hell.
What?
Oh, and he lands. He sticks the landing.
Oh, that's wild. What is he?
No.
What?
Amazing.
This is nice. I mean, that's like How?
You weren't kidding when you say that this is like cyberpunk.
Yeah,
It is.
it really is.
Yeah, watching this kind of stuff makes me happy not to be a game developer, because fixing
Oh,
all this stuff must be a nightmare.
We have a game developer on the audience because Jose Naranjo said Rockstar updated all the textures and shaders, but didn't update the gameplay.
What?
They updated. Okay, so that explains things. So they updated all textures and shaders, but didn't update. Well, of course, that's going to cause this madness.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
Still waiting for my favorite.
Yeah. That was crazy.
There was another really good one coming.
Oh, Lord.
I think it's right after.
Comment.
what?
Oh my.
Even looks better in the original Xbox.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Where was my favorite? It went away. Come back.
Okay.
It was the one with the two guys at the car. I guess it went away. But yeah, this is great. What were you saying, Abraham? Or who was that?
I was saying that that comment about updating just the graphics reminds me what happened with Fallout 76, where they were doing. What was the name of the game? I don't remember. They were releasing a game, and it was a new game, and they were super duper hype about it. And it wasn't Fallout. It was another game, but I don't remember the name. The thing is that they used the same exact engine that they used on Fallout 76. That was not a really good engine, and they had tons of weird bugs happening.
Yeah.
And people were like, they took like 4 years to develop, and they were like, you took that many times to use just an engine? Well, come on, what's going on?
This is similar. This is similar in what happened to the PES platform, because they create a great soccer game, and they mess up with the new eFootball. So
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
This is an amazing bug, though. It's kind of messing with my brain.
I love the huge car.
The car gets bigger, right? That's crazy.
It literally.
I mean,
why? I can't even explain some of these bugs. It's just trying to imagine how I debug it.
I'm also curious as to. I mean, Rockstar obviously they got the capital and the talent to put something decent together. I don't fully understand. I know I saw
they need QA.
Yeah. I saw someone.
It's because they stopped overworking everyone.
Yeah, I saw someone said that there was some writing on the wall because they didn't send out any, of the preview, like the invite to play ahead of time as like a review, or like nothing to IGN or any of those folks. So they suspect that they kind of knew they had a not so good product.
Yeah.
But interesting.
Yeah, that's a deal as old as time, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, there you go. That is the GTA trilogy. Catching up on that. Points Baron has finalized the scoreboard, and let us see who is taking home some X label apparel. Let's see, who was it? Felipe with 10 points.
Nice.
Defeating Abraham. Congrats to you. And definitely Cathriel as well.
Yeah.
Cathriel as well is our chat winner today for having an amazing just constant commentary of greatness.
Yeah. Great question.
Osmar, you almost won for sharing this link of this amazing bug. But Cathriel, he was on fire today. But thank you again for everyone in the chat who joined us. Congrats again to Felipe. And wrap us up. Take us home, Caleb.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here. This was a lot of fun. I truly did learn something from this chat. Really, really nice, kind of roundtable discussion here, talking about mobile and all the different aspects. So thank you much. Thank you for everyone watching at home for episode 2 of KMFCast. And we'll be back shortly with episode 3.
Boom.
Thanks so much. Boom.
Thanks.
Hey, guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Go Corgis.
Go Corgis. Yes. Nice.